So that seems to me all good news from Sky Eye.
Yeah, it says they did a bit of good news. And Don, that was a great shot. You can see that police presence out there with those flashlights in hand. They're in some dark uniforms right now, but that is the best news we've gotten so far this afternoon, is that this scene now is completely de-escalated and secured.
They dress in black so that they can move in the shadows.
News coming out of this report.
Some very good news when we see the kind of police presence that is out there. You want those people to all be able to either go to the hospital to show their support or just get home safely at the end of this really crazy.
Lift for the veil isn't wrong with that statement. He's 100% correct. Cops work in the shadows. They're called the Goon Squad. Anyone in law enforcement is part of the Goon Squad. The judge wears black, right? Like the Grim Reaper.
Day for the Houston Police Department. On the left-hand side, we are still waiting.
There definitely was a false flag shooting, the one in Dallas. If you guys remember the one in Dallas, that definitely.
I'm not saying that this is a false flag attack at all.
Definitely. Lots of evidence for that one too.
Looks like he might just be walking out of the hospital.
That one was definitely fake.
Where they went to meet with the families of those officers.
It was really weird.
Of the 5 officers that were shot today, the latest information is that 3 of them were in stable condition, 2 of them in.
I bet you. Because ATF was involved. This is like immediately. So basically, this is I want to say a drug smuggler's house.
Critical condition. So your prayers still needed for those officers, and hopefully we'll get some more good news as the police chief comes over to address the media. But right now he's meeting with some of his own officers who gathered out there today to show their support and lend their prayers, and so no doubt he's briefing them first.
Yes, and we can see them all gathering right there, getting ready for a press conference.
These guys are pretty good at wasting time. It's not that easy.
John made a really good point.
You know what else is in the news? People are just saying how things are crazy, times are changing. Well, we have the situation in Venezuela right now. We just put crazy sanctions on them.
So that's not going to be needed. That is some good news. They could definitely start wrapping up their investigation in terms of the immediacy right now. But right now, we're going to take you back to the hospital. We got Maida Moreno there.
I wonder if this is to cover up for that news.
I do.
We put some crazy sanctions on them as far as their oil and so forth.
Looks like Chief Art Acevedo walked out, and a lot of the officers started walking up towards the hospital there. As you can see, everybody huddled around. It looks like the chief was briefing the fellow officers that have been waiting, wanting to know how the.
We're about to get a press conference where we're supposedly going to get new information. What's the old information? There were some officers, SWAT and undercover officers, who were executing some kind of a warrant, I guess, and ended up getting.
So he saw the story before I did, but I pretty much brought it right to the point. Because if ATF was involved, alcohol, tobacco, firearms.
And 5 of them shot.
So as soon as the police chief.
There was a informant. Well, there was someone probably working undercover. Friggin', the whole scene just looked hot, bit from the eyes of the.
One suspect dead. Scene secured right now.
All the media is waiting for answers. So again, you can see those officers there just huddled around, listening very carefully. The chief there in the middle of them. I saw him shaking a couple of hands there, talking to some of the officers.
The SWAT guys got shot.
And as well, it looks like there was a doctor or 2 in there. I could see their coats from across the street, their white coats. So again, just waiting to see what Police Chief Art Acevedo, as well as Mayor Sylvester Turner, will be telling us. And I assume that maybe the doctor might be coming across as well to give us more information and details as to the extent of the injuries of these officers that we know. So it looks like they might be breaking up here. Yep, it looks like there's the mayor, and I also see the chief. They will will be walking here momentarily. So you guys, as soon as they do come across, we will have this media conference for you.
All right, Maida Moreno there at the scene, Memorial Hermann Hospital, again, where all 5 officers are. And as she was noting, it looks like we are finally going to get this press conference underway with more information to get out on this this shooting of 5 officers. But you can only hope that the officers are doing better. Hopefully he's in there talking to their families as well and just trying to really check on them and just show support.
Yeah, and it did look like that's what he was doing with the officers who had all gathered. Everybody wondering exactly what happened in that home in Southeast Houston and how all of this went down. But the most important question we all have first is, how are those officers doing tonight, especially when we hear that 2 of them are in critical condition. And so, you know, those are the answers that Houston wants to hear. We've wanted to hear that for about 2.5 hours now, and so hopefully we're going to get some more information momentarily here.
And as the Chief Art Acevedo gets up to the podium right here, let's go ahead and just give you another background scene set on what took place today, as far as we know at this point, as we watch the mayor come up right now. 5 officers shot, serving a narcotics warrant on a home on Harding, but let's go ahead and listen into the chief right now.
First and foremost, I want to just say right off the bat that no officer has died, and folks are trying to start those rumors, so I want to say that right off the bat. Before I make some specific comments on what occurred tonight, Mayor Turner and the council members here, Mayor Turner will open up the briefing. Mayor?
Let me just start off by saying that this has been a tough day for our city, but I certainly want to encourage all Houstonians to pray for all of our police officers who are at Memorial Hermann. This is one of the finest hospitals you will find anywhere in the country, and they are being attended to with the best medical care. So pray for all of our police officers. I will tell you, one of them is either will be discharged if it has not already been. That's good news. And for the others who will be remaining here at the hospital, pray for them, and pray for their families. Pray for their spouses, their children, their parents, all of their loved ones, and there are many loved ones that are on the road, en route here. So pray for those who will be flying from outside of the state, and pray for those who are on the road driving in. That's important. Let me also thank EMS and the fire department for the work that they did in getting all of them here to this hospital in very quick time. Let me tell you, let me commend EMS, Chief Pena, the fire department, all of them who responded to our police officers in their moment of need, and got them here in very fast time so that they could be attended to. I want to thank the Houston Police Department and others for clearing the roadway, for clearing the freeway, so that they could bring them, get them here so they could get the care that they desperately needed in a very quick fashion. And then I just want to thank all of Houston for just offering their prayers. Let me just say this. Our job is to keep people safe in our city. And I want to be very clear, is that, we do not tolerate any sort of activity, whether it's drug activity, drug trafficking, whether it's whatever it may be. We don't tolerate it in our city. That we want to work night and day to make sure that our city remains safe. We don't want anyone injured in any.
What the hell?
Their offices or their homes to be here. I want to say a special thanks to each one of the city council members. I want to say a special thanks for Tiffany Fatita, who is here to stand and to be at this hospital, continuing to pray for all the police officers. And I want to thank all of you for the coverage that you have provided. But and the medical staff. I really want to thank the medical staff here at Hermann Memorial. They are just incredible, and they are giving some fantastic care to these police officers. So, Chief, let me turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for always, one of the calls you never want to get as a chief is you've had officers shot, and one of the calls you never want to make to a mayor, to a family member, is that officers have been hurt. So I'm going to go over the incident real quick, and we've had a second officer involved shooting in Northside. And I don't know if you guys want to hear about that or not, but I want to focus initially on this first shooting. So at about 4:15 p.m., a narcotics group 15 from the Houston Police Department, who was working an investigation involving the sales of narcotics out of a residence on the 7800 block of Hardy Street, responded to Hardy Street as a team of about a dozen narcotics officers and about a half a dozen patrol officers from the East Side Division. The patrol officers were there to provide support and obviously to provide the uniform presence for this operation. Shortly before 5 o'clock, the narcotics officers attempted to serve a search warrant on the location at 7800 Hardy Street. They announced themselves as Houston police officers while simultaneously breaching the front door of the residence, and while the police car, the marked police unit with uniformed members as well as the police officers or the police garb also hit the siren to make sure everybody can and hit the lights so they knew that police officers were there. Immediately upon breaching the door, the officers came under fire from one or two suspects inside the house. We're not sure how many of the suspects fired at this time. As you can imagine, it was a pretty chaotic scene over there, and the investigation's unfolding. As a result of the exchange of gunfire between our officers and one or two suspects, we have 5 officers injured. 4 were struck by gunfire. 2 officers are currently in surgery. They're in surgery for gunfire sustained, and they are in critical but stable condition. And we're hopeful that with the prayers of this community that they will recover. But again, they are in critical condition but stable. Their families are here. Some of the families are in transit, but 2 officers are currently in surgery. 2 other officers were shot, and they will remain hospitalized for observation for at least a 24-hour period. They were struck by gunfire, but they are basically ambulatory, and they're expected to make a full recovery. 1 officer sustained an injury during the gun battle. It's important to note that once the officers, the initial indications are once the officers breached the door and the gunfire began from the suspects.
He snapped his glasses off.
One of the suspects actually retreated momentarily to the back of the room, and then that suspect came back and again engaged the officers and gunfire. I have not been able to determine how many of our officers are shot, have returned fire. That's part of the ongoing investigation. As you can imagine, we needed to work the scene from a tactical perspective. SWAT responded along with other allied agencies. We established a pretty hard perimeter, and once you had 5 officers injured, 4 shot, and 5 believed to be shot at the time, we had to slow down and actually turn it into a very methodical, tactical operation. The SWAT operators, upon taking control of the scene, utilized 2 different robots to go into the residence and to actually help search the residence. 2 suspects were struck by return gunfire by members of the Houston Police Department. Those suspects, once we were able to render the scene safe by SWAT, were pronounced deceased at the scene from the return gunfire from the officers. I want to personally thank the Houston Fire Department.
So real quick, the thing is, even if as an infantryman I were to go into taking a prisoner of, securing friendly forces while in occupation, of a territory, before anything else happens, I have to make certain there's no other enemy trying to kill me while I'm distracted. So that's the thing, is when we were in Iraq, we carried 2 tourniquets on us. The one in our med kit was for ourselves, or it was for somebody else. Pardon me. The one that we carried, we usually kept it around our boots, because maybe we at least have a chance to freaking administer a tourniquet on ourselves, because we have to do our own first aid. It's first aid because we are first in aiding ourselves, and that's a very tremendous situation. And then to see an innocent person shot, but not being able to do anything about it because there's rounds being sent downrange.
They're phenomenal partners. The care and the concern and the love that they showed and displayed for our officers and their families was second to none. Chief Pena runs a world-class organization, and I also personally want to thank, on behalf of all the men and women of the Houston Police Department, the staff that you see behind it. We are so blessed to live in a city with medical facilities that people from around the world that of well means come here because they know that these hospitals, this institution of hospitals, are really second to none. I really believe as a result of their excellence, our officers couldn't be in better hands. I also want to thank Life Flight, and I'll call Chief Pena here in a minute to update you on who was how many were transported by Life Flight and by ground. And I also want to thank our members of the Houston Police Department. It's important to note this investigation began, and I was talking to the council members and Stardig and Gallegos and Dwight Boykins and the mayor that they received emails. We receive emails. We receive complaints. Our eyes and ears are truly the community that we serve. We could not do what we do without the community we serve. This all began because a neighbor had the courage to say, we're not going to put up. We think that they're dealing dope out of this house. And we don't just ignore that. We immediately passed that on to our narcotics division that began this investigation, was able to actually determine that narcotics dealing, street-level narcotics dealing, black tar heroin was being dealt out of this, and we know the poison that's killing so many kids, not only here in Houston, but around the country. They immediately started an investigation, and that's what they were there tonight. They were there to execute a search warrant, and unfortunately, as we know, ironically, the mayor and I had our press conference today, and Tillman Fertitta, the chairman of the police foundation, Houston Police Foundation, we were celebrating two things today. One, at the Houston Police Academy, we're celebrating the groundbreaking. He's right behind me there. He's being shy. The groundbreaking of a tactical village that, again, is the result of a $10 million investment by the people of this community and their police department that tells you the kind of support we have. And two, we were there to celebrate the fact that despite the fact that this police department in 2019 has 300 fewer officers than we had 20 years ago, about 500,000 more people, our men and women, we said it then and we'll say it again, they don't make excuses, they make a difference. And what you saw today with these officers showing that they have the courage, the guts, and the perseverance to do what they need to do to keep this community safe. And so with that, I'll come back and answer questions of the mayor, more questions on the actual incident, and do some Spanish. But
I still have my opinions about the police. They're the fine blue corporate line. You know, and I unwrap that pack of cigarettes, and there's that pull tab, there's that little extra piece of plastic in there to give you the leverage. Not having to worry about it tearing. Mostly just have to worry about it getting stuck on the damn cigarettes and just freaking not working or not being stuck. Yeah, I mean, like, people know what I'm talking about. So, anyways, they protect corporate interest.
Chief Pena, who's not only a colleague, he's a dear friend, to come up and talk a little bit about the outstanding work of his men and women.
Good evening. This is a tough day for the Houston Fire Department and the city of Houston. I think, we need to ensure that we keep these officers that were injured here tonight in our prayers and their families. There's some real evil in this world, and I think today was evident, this incident was evident as far as the dangers that our first responders face each and every day out here in the streets. Couldn't be prouder of the work that the Houston Fire Department did. We were on scene in support of the Houston police officers' operation. It was the incredible work and quick work of our medic units that gave these officers, these injured officers, the best chance of survival in bringing them here to this world-class facility. I do want to make a special mention to Medic 18, Medic 19, and Ambulance 19 and their crews here tonight on C shift, who did an outstanding job of ensuring that the injured officers were provided with the critical care that they needed. as well as the other units on scene that were there to evacuate the patients onto life flight. So we had 3 injured officers that were transported by ambulance here to Herman Memorial, and 2 that were life flighted from the scene. All of them receiving advanced life support and advanced life care throughout transport. We got them to the hospital in critical, but
that means that they were high as fuck.
Stable condition, and again, we're praying for these officers to pull through. And can't say enough about the work that the Houston police officers and the Houston Police Department do each and every day, as well as the Houston Fire Department, and the incredible support that we provide for each other. So with that, we'll be available for any questions.
Chief, before you go on, let me just acknowledge the fact that Governor Abbott did call, had a chance to talk to him, and expressed his concern for all of these officers and their families, and wanted me to let you know that he's certainly sending forth his prayers on behalf of these officers as well as their families. So I did want to make that note.
Chief, the 2 officers in critical, where are they wounded?
Say again?
The 2 officers.
They both were struck in the neck area by gunfire.
Did they make it inside the house? Or
You know what?
The reason why it was neck is because the villains, the opposition, didn't account for recoil. You know, that's why we do bang bang. Because if we aim center mass, friggin', well, we see where those shots are going, right? The dude picked up too high caliber of a weapon, but was knew how to fire weapons.
That's part of the investigation. We know that they breached and they came under fire right away. Let me just say that to the media real quick. I just got reports a minute ago that somebody's already found the house of one of these officers and showed up. That is irresponsible. These are narcotics officers that work undercover. They do not need the media out in front of their house. So it's not helpful, and I don't think it's appropriate. So if you're that station, whoever you were, please don't just get out of that area. These guys all work undercover. Let me just give you a quick overview of who got shot in terms of ages. And one of the individuals struck was of age 50. He's a sergeant. He was transported by ambulance. Another one of our male sergeants by the name of, I'm not going to give it up because I don't think we've made all the notifications. Age 50 was life flighted. Another senior police officer, age 54, and I can tell you this is the case agent. And let me tell you why I think these cops are heroes. This officer's been shot several times in line of duty. And while most people would call it a day after being shot and surviving, this man is 54 years old. He's the case agent on this case, and he was there in the front lines. If that doesn't tell you about the heart of the men and women we have the privilege to lead, I don't know what will. He's
and that's exactly.
He's 54, and he's been on since 1984. The first one since 1993, the second one since 1991. The other officer that was life flighted, the 54-year-old and the 40-year-old, those 2 are in surgery. He was actually life flighted as well. And the last one is 33, and he's transported by ambulance. The officers that returned fire at the scene are being debriefed by the Special Investigations Unit, by Internal Affairs. The Harris County District Attorney's Office is on scene at the officer-involved shooting, and they will be working with us, the Civil Rights Division, to ensure that all policies, procedures, and law were followed. With that, I want to let Joe Gamaldi, who's in times like this, sometimes what we can't do, the Houston Police Officers Union do a phenomenal job of being partners with us, and I'd like to have him say a couple of comments on behalf of the Police Officers Union.
Yeah, first of all, let me just thank the community. The outpouring of support has once been amazing, and it shows why Houston's the greatest city in the world. I want to thank Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who already contacted us to make sure these officers are doing all right. And I want to thank all of our partners at HFD, all the officers out on that scene, who all played a crucial role in getting them down here. And certainly thank you to the medical staff, the world-class medical staff here that are taking care of our officers. But now I want to speak on behalf of the 5,200 brave men and women of the Houston Police Department and the other 800,000 police officers that are working these streets every single day, putting their lives on the line. We are sick and tired of having targets on our back. We are sick and tired of having dirtbags trying to take our lives when all we're trying to do is protect this community and protect our families. Enough is enough. And if you're the ones that are out there spreading the rhetoric that police officers are the enemy, well, just know we've all got your number now. We're going to be keeping track of all of y'all, and we're going to make sure that we hold you accountable every time you stir the pot on our police officers. We've had enough, folks. We're out there doing our jobs every day, putting our lives on the line for our families. Enough is enough. Now, please, keep these officers in your prayers.
Thanks, Joe. Mayor, you have anything? We'll open it up to questions, or I can do Spanish real quick.
Two suspects total, or three suspects?
There are two suspects that were shot and returned gunfire, and were they pronounced at the scene?
What kind of weapons?
Two suspects. Semi-automatic is all I have. I don't have anything other than semi-automatic.
Tell us about those suspects. They're back.
I can't tell you anything other than I know that because we had a search warrant that narcotics activity was going on in that residence, specifically the sale of black tar heroin.
Is there gang activity related as well?
We don't. That's part of the investigation.
You said one officer was not shot.
Semi-automatic pistols. One officer
was not shot.
out of the 5 officers, 4 were shot. 2 critically that are in surgery. Both shot in the neck. But they're stable, thank God. The mayor and I talked to the surgeon on the way out, and one was an injury that's not from gunfire.
What kind of injury?
It's a knee injury. When you're getting shot, people are moving in all kinds of directions, and when there's a lot of shots being fired at you, and you get 4 officers shot, 5 officers shot. That's a lot of gunfire that came our way.
Chief, do you know if any of the officers were injured by friendly fire?
No, I mean, let me just say this right off the bat. We don't suspect anybody being struck by friendly fire. I don't expect, because our people are really well trained, even though in these very dynamic situations that certainly can happen. But if an officer was shot by friendly fire, the only people responsible under the law and morally are the people inside that residence that decided to take shots at police officers executing a lawful search warrant. What else?
¿Cuál es la situación en ese momento en esa comunidad que es altamente hispana? ¿Qué mensaje tienen para la gente ahí y sobre el estado de salud de los?
Bueno, la comunidad hispana, queremos que sepan que tenemos un gran orgullo que la comunidad vio que había
police chief and the fire chief and the union representative giving us so many more details about what happened here.
No Spanish, please, no Spanish.
Thing that, of course, being
we can't play that on the radio.
Other insurance companies.
All right, so no false flag. No false flag. They're not. Yeah, they're running around in dark clothing. And navy blue looks pretty black at night, huh? Let's see. So that's, I can refresh it and stuff, but people need to freaking calm down, and this is why because so many people think that and I'm guilty of it too. There was a couple things I jumped on. Nanobots seeing the clouds making fucking rain, or making snow that doesn't melt. I was skeptical. I was like, what? And then I learned about sublimation before I react. And then, no, I made a mistake. Big one. Yeah, I can't think of it right now, but You know, and people just need to calm down with the rhetoric and their usage and stuff of words. Just remember, like, hey, just be human. Alright? Just be human. And what is human? Maybe that's what I'm going for right now. Living in my situation. Trying to figure out what's human. I'm like in the Stone Age of, if they live, excuse me, I'm in a Stone Age. And a lot of people aren't even in the Stone Age, but they think that they're freaking in a space age or the information age. And to be honest with you, there's no way, unless one person was making all the rules, or just the very few select group of people could make the rules. Could anyone actually pay attention to what's actually going on in the world? And that's the thing, and that's what the third eye is all about, because there's a bunch of money out there. There's a bunch of people that don't have to worry about shit. They get all the shit they need. They don't have to worry about it. They're really off the grid. They're off the grid human beings, but they've got freaking advanced technology. And see that, like, and that's why it's good to think about things. You know, think about thinking about things. Because that's how you actually find out the truth. Because what would I do? Well, the thing is, I can't keep up with all the information. So what I would do is I'd be putting out the information. Collecting the information. Well, how do you collect the information? Well, that's why we create these government agencies with security clearances and compartmentalize everything. And so the only thing that gets through